Hello everybody, Jeff Siegel here. And whether you are in Beijing or Boston, it is hot and sunny out. I was just outside and I want to talk to you a little bit about sun exposure. And this is a topic that I think deserves a lot of attention. Not only because the sun, this magical, amazing, gigantic ball of fire, is the source of all life and energy and warmth on our planet and our solar system, but it serves two important physiological processes when it comes to looking at your health and optimizing your well-being. And these are vitamin D production and setting your circadian rhythms, setting the biological clock that instructs all of your cells to pump out hormones and to run through their various processes. And so getting the right sun exposure at the right time is really important to improving your health. However, the majority of Americans spend most of their days indoors. And especially in the middle of the summer, like right now when it is super hot and sunny outside, all right, being outdoors for too long can seem kind of oppressive. And so the question is, what can you do to make sure that you're getting the vitamin D and that you're getting the circadian clock setting that you need without overdoing your sun exposure? And this kind of reminds me of the ancient Greek myth of Icarus and Daedalus, right, where Icarus flew with the wings and he was just being a little bit foolhardy, got a little bit too close to the sun and got fried. Right? So there's an obvious danger to too much sun exposure. Right? Getting sunburn is terrible for your skin, can lead to cancerous growths, and can cause premature cellular aging, wrinkles, and all sorts of other things that you don't want. However, there is an important place for getting sun exposure, particularly sun exposure in the middle of the day without sunscreen on, because that is the optimal time for your body to synthesize vitamin D. So a lot of people, I think make the mistake of thinking that they're getting vitamin D because, they walk to work in the morning at 8 a.m. All right. The problem is that when the sun is too low to the horizon, most of the UVB rays are not actually making it down to the surface of the earth. And guess what? Those UVB rays are what trigger your cells to begin to produce vitamin D. And so in order to maximize the sun exposure that's going to help you get vitamin D, you actually need to be out in the middle of the day. When the sun is highest in the sky, you're going to be getting the most UVB and therefore increase your vitamin D production. Right? This is why if you live in certain parts of the world, you actually can't even get adequate vitamin D from the sun during the winter months because it simply does not rise high enough in the sky for you to get those UVB rays. And so if you look on your weather app, you can usually look up the UVB or UV index, and this will kind of give you a sense of UV exposure. When that number is highest, all right, it represents this double-edged sword. Yes, you are most likely to get burnt, and you need to be careful about overdoing sun exposure. And this is also the best time for your body to synthesize vitamin D. So getting time outside in the middle of the day, all right, is important. If you put on suntan lotion, guess what? The suntan lotion is designed to block UV A and B rays. That means it's also going to block all of the things that are going to help your body synthesize vitamin D. So you don't want to have sun exposure. The other thing is sitting behind a window doesn't count because the glass also is going to block out most of those UV rays. So you really need to be out there with your sun naturally exposed, your skin naturally exposed to the sun. All right. So this whole idea of walking to the work for, in the morning, probably not going to cut it. But what you can do is maybe at lunchtime, maybe there's a place you can walk to for lunch. Maybe it's a 5 or 10 minute walk. That can be perhaps the optimal way for you to get some sun exposure in the middle of the day, again, without overdoing it. Now, you need to consider contextual factors like your skin pigmentation, right? The darker your skin color, the more sun exposure you're going to need, all right, to help your body synthesize and produce vitamin D. All right, and the other thing is the amount of skin exposed to the sun. Right? The greater amount of skin you have exposed to the sun, then the less time you're going to need in the sun to get that vitamin D production. So sometimes it might only take as little as 10 or 15 minutes in the middle of a bright, sunny, summery day. All right, but in other times of year, again, depending on your skin color and these other factors, you might need a little bit more or a little bit less. Pay attention, right? Notice what's going on. Feel your body. If it feels like you're getting burns, there's a good chance you probably are. All right, you need to notice and pay attention to what your skin sensitivity is. All right, and I do want you to use sunscreen. Now we can get into a longer conversation about what types of sunscreen are best Generally, the mineral-based sunscreens, the kind of zinc oxides, tend to be a little bit less problematic in terms of containing possibly harmful chemicals. All right. Now, the other thing, though, is actually getting sun first thing in the morning, and then also to a lesser extent, but somewhat important, at night when the sun is setting, because this helps set the circadian clock. All right. Maybe you've heard about this idea of circadian rhythms, right? Every single cell in your body follows what is basically a 24-hour cycle. All right. And this is largely set by your sun exposure. And the most important time is first thing in the morning to get outside and to get some natural light. All right, now what's going on there? All right, in many ways, this is actually the opposite of the vitamin D production, where you want the sun high in the sky because you're going to get those UV rays that are going to help synthesize vitamin D. However, when the sun is low in the sky, there's particular wavelengths of light, all right, that reach your eyeballs and that stimulate these cells that then help regulate all of these other rhythms, all right? Things like cortisol production, things like melatonin secretion, even things like the enzymes in your liver, right? All of these are going to be affected by that sunlight exposure early in the morning. So, to kind of summarize it all, right? The best thing you can do is to get some natural sunlight first thing in the morning when you wake up. All right, to get some natural sunlight in the middle of the day when the sun is at its highest for vitamin D production. And then also, if you'd like, to get a little bit of natural sunlight as the sun is setting to also help reinforce that circadian rhythm. And because you know what? Sunsets are freaking beautiful and wonderful reminders of how short and precious and amazingly gorgeous this planet is. All right, now, how can we do this? All right, because I think that you need to be smart, and I'm not saying that you should never wear suntan lotion. But again, one idea is that maybe in the morning when you wake up, you can first go out and get some natural light. At that point, there's not a lot of UV. You typically don't have to worry about sun exposure or sunburns. Then you want to maybe come indoors, all right, until later in the day, all right, and depending on where you are, this might be after 10 or 11 o'clock, where you can go back outside again for, maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes to get that vitamin D sunlight. And then after that, come back inside, apply suntan lotion as liberally as you need to be, especially if you're going to be spending more times outdoors. And that way you know that you're protected from those UV rays for the rest of the day. But guess what? You've already gotten enough to help you stimulate and synthesize your vitamin D. Now, what are optimal levels of vitamin D and how do you measure it? This is something you can go to your doctor for. But guess what? You can also do an at-home vitamin D test. There's a company called Omega Quant where you can order a test, they'll send it to you, a little finger prick of blood, mail it back out, and you can get your results from them. I have no affiliation, but I've used their services, and it's a really easy way to test your vitamin D levels. All right? And what I want you to also remember is that in all of these health recommendations, right, it's really easy to just kind of get hung up on every little detail. Am I doing this right? Am I doing that right? Oh no, I didn't get my vitamin D today. Or oh no, I didn't set my circadian rhythm. And guess what? All of that actually becomes a barrier to our true wellness. Because now we've turned all of this into just another to-do on our already busy lives. All right? And this isn't about perfectly optimizing our health. Yes, I want you to have the knowledge and the tools that are going to empower you to take care of your body in the ways that are going to keep it running optimally, right? So, but ultimately, this is about coming into a deeper relationship with our body, and ultimately about having the ample energy and the capacity to show up in our lives with the people that matter to us, doing the things that we truly care about. So please don't get hung up on optimizing every little last thing. But if you can, even in the back of your head, just think about, maybe I can go outside for 5 minutes and get a little bit of sunlight. All right, these are the little ways in which you can modify your lifestyle that can actually start to have dramatic effects on your physiology, as well as just getting outdoors can have so many other positive effects that I've talked about, the importance of reconnecting with nature and just taking a moment to pause and to breathe. So, with all of that being said, Jeff Siegel here, and I just want you to remember that the sun can be your best friend or your worst enemy. And so just taking a moment to be thoughtful about how you're getting your sun exposure, why you're getting sun exposure, and then ultimately enjoying it as much as you can is going to help you have the energy you need to live your life at its best. So until next time, Jeff Siegel, breathe, smile, and enjoy the sun.